Hello everyone, my name is Tam and I will be the host today for the STEM Teams interview with Nidhi Patel. Nidhi is a business intelligence analyst at One Toronto Gaming, and she has a background in mathematics and statistics. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nidhi. We're really happy to have you here.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here as well. I hope I can bring some excitement to the world of mathematics and statistics.
All right, thank you for joining us. So we're just going to get started. We have a couple of questions that our students here at BR have asked you. The first is, what does a business intelligence analyst do on a daily basis?
So business intelligence analyst, from company to company, it will differ a little bit, but overall, we basically have three main things we do. So one being cleaning the data and checking data quality, which becomes the crucial part of doing everything we do. After that, we also create and update different reports, which we also call dashboards. So those are basically go out monthly or weekly to different business units, and pretty much we'll use them to make decisions and just to assess how the performance is going of their company. And we also have something called ad hoc analysis. So that's basically request-based analysis. So that could be anything from questions about like how promotions are doing, or like if specific to my industry, like how a slot machine is particularly doing, should we buy it again? So these are the requests that change all the time. Personally, I think that's the most exciting part of my job because it's something new and exciting all the time.
Thank you so much for that response. And I think I can definitely relate to that as well. It's nice to have like new things and to always be working on. All right, so the next question we have is, what skills do you need to pursue a career in statistics and mathematics?
Well, I can't really speak to mathematics that much because I don't have much experience on that side. But specific to statistics and maybe I guess a little on mathematics, like soft skill wise, I would say communication is definitely key because you're going to usually be working with a lot of different teams throughout the company. So you have to be able to communicate your ideas well, be on the same page as other people, as well as specifically to being a data analyst, you want to be able to communicate your findings well. So because you have technical information and trying to translate it into non-technical information is very difficult. So whether it be in written form or verbal form, you need to be pretty good at being to communicate that well. Other than that, I think problem solving skills and critical thinking skills are quite important when it comes to data analysis, because you want to come up with creative ideas. Sometimes executives will only come up with to you for very broad questions, and then you have to really put your skills at the test for thinking and problem solving and try to come up with some creative ways of getting a solution. Technical skill wise, I think for statistics specifically, you definitely want to have some sort of programming background. Because what I've learned is you learn one program, then it'll be a lot easier to learn the rest because you have that foundation already. So just for anyone that's curious, in the statistics world at the moment, SQL and Python are quite popular. Things do change around. Excel is always great to have as well. I think that's pretty overall high level.
Thank you for sharing those insights. And kind of like a follow-up question on that, you did mention like the soft skills aspect and how we need to like have good like communication skills and even like problem solving. Is the problem solving usually in like an individual setting or a group setting when you're working?
It can depend. Sometimes if you have more of a bigger project and you have team members to always bounce ideas off of, so that's always a good thing. Sometimes it may be on the more individual side if you're working on something smaller. I mean, it varies from assignment to assignment, really. And even I'm sure with companies, because sometimes some data teams are quite small. Personally, I've only worked on teams of 3 or 4. There are companies which are larger, so then you can take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. So our next question here is, what do you enjoy most about your career, and what are some drawbacks?
I think what I enjoy the most for my career is pretty much being able to dig through data to find solutions. And a lot of the times I would go hunting for one problem and find so much more, just going through and finding different patterns. In particular, I work in the hospitality industry, so I get a sense of how someone's thinking, like why did they spend this much money, or why did they only come to get one promotion and not participate in another. So it gets quite interesting in that sense. Also, a lot of companies are actually only realizing their true value of that historical data they're compiling. So it's so exciting to be in the industry of analytics right now because data really can give you a competitive edge in the industry if used well. And for drawbacks, honestly, there's no major one for me. I would say the only thing sometimes is this job requires you to sit behind a computer all day. So it does get exhausting, but I mean, it's not too bad. You take a few walks here and there. I mean, it's not so bad at the end. And a lot of us are used to staring at a computer for a good chunk of our time, or phones or something.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with virtual,
Yes.
like the virtual world now.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that answer. Our next question here is more related to your co-op kind of experience, because we understand that you did a statistics specialization co-op.
Yes.
So we're wondering, how was your co-op experience, and what advice would you give to students hoping to participate in this program?
I honestly loved co-op. It was a great opportunity. I'm so glad McMaster offered it. I would highly recommend it, even for people pursuing other programs if it's available. Personally, I didn't get as much as a diverse experience as I liked. Sometimes you're limited to whatever jobs are coming up. But I would say go for it. And if I had to give some advice, I would say try to get as much diverse experience as you can. As I said before, like sometimes you're limited to what's posted, but try to jump around because co-op is the chance for you to figure out what you like, what you don't like. They're only 4 to 8 months period. So, I mean, if you do end up not liking it, you don't have to stick with it at least. So like go for it, try it out. Also, for something I regretted myself at each placement, if you don't feel challenged and you want to learn more, you can always speak to your supervisor. I'm sure they're gonna be thrilled to figure out like that you want to be more, you're challenged more, or you want like you're. It shows a lot of determination. So I think definitely like reach out to supervisors if you don't feel like you're getting the most out of your co-op. But overall, just go for it if you can do it.
Yeah, thank you for that advice. I think myself personally, I'll start like looking into those sort of like opportunities, since it does help a lot with like trying to figure out what pathway you want to go to.
It definitely does. And nowadays, when you graduate, a lot of places are looking for some sort of experience. So having like, even if you do summer internships or through the co-op program, that gives you some professional experience. So it's some solid backup experience you have. And I think it'll help a lot when you're trying to apply for jobs.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Our next question here was, what was something that you wish you knew before entering your program, whether it be undergraduate or later on?
I definitely had that with undergraduate. For graduate, not so much because I actually went to the same school for both. So I was able to gain all the information I needed even before I applied. But to speak to my undergraduate program, I would say I really wish I knew how important programming or computer science courses were, because statistics and I think believe mathematics as well has a huge programming component to it in the working world now. I never took it. It was never mandatory. I really regretted it. So I would definitely encourage programming courses, even if it's the bare minimal foundations. Also, I'm not sure if this is available at every school, but when I was at McMaster during first year, they had this mentorship program where first years are paired up with upper year students from the same program. So basically, it gives you a chance to talk to them, learn from their experiences. I never signed up for it. I really did regret it, though. I wish I had, because it gives you that exposure, and maybe I would have known about the programming courses needed to be taken and stuff, right? So I would definitely encourage that if the mentorship program is available at the school you go to.
Thank you for sharing that advice. And we have another question here kind of about like your pathway. Did you always know what you wanted to do? Or were there any times that you felt unsure? And if so, how did you ever narrow down and figure out that this occupation was ultimately what you wanted to do as a job?
I actually have changed my jobs, not jobs, like my career choices quite a bit. When I was applying for math from in high school, I wanted to be a high school math teacher actually. Then going into university, I realized there's so much out there, and I kept being told like teaching is the job outlook isn't so great because there's just so many people in it. So I thought maybe I should start looking other places. I discovered a career called actuary that has a series of exams. So I started writing them. And there's also courses available. So I took them. I realized the only attractive part of this job was the salary, not the job itself. So I was like, probably not the best. So I moved on from that as well. Then at the same time, I was doing co-op actually. So through co-op, I realized I love statistics. So I went through with the statistics specialization. My co-ops were actually quite research heavy. So I thought maybe academia is for me. So I applied for my master's. I also took the thesis option, which I'm glad I did because I realized research is not for me. I hate theoretical statistics. But through taking courses in my master's, I realized applied statistics is where my heart is at. And after talking to different, like my professors and stuff, I realized that data analysts kind of jobs are what I want to pursue. So that's what I did after my master's, and I'm happy with it. I don't regret my choices at all.
That's really great to hear. And it's almost like reassuring to know that, like we can sort of, there's still room to change our minds later on. I think a
For
big
sure.
pressure for high school students sometimes, or at least for me personally, is like that pressure that we have to choose ultimately, like right now. So it's great to hear your story and to know that like you have experience and like experimented with different options.
You definitely have room to change things around. I mean, having a drastic change might be a little harder. I kind of just bounced around in math and statistics, but definitely you have the room for it. It's not like you're stuck.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for all the questions we have for you today. Um, so thank you so much again for joining us. We really appreciate all the advice that you've given and all the insight that our audience will definitely gain from your interview today.
Thank you for having me. It was
Thank you
great.
so much. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this interview with Katie Michiels, who is a teacher in HCDSB with quite an interesting background as a photographer, and overall, she's just an amazing artist. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Um, Starting with our first question, what challenges did you face when pursuing your passions?
So, um, with my own passions, yeah, I'm gonna be like a little personal. So, my challenges I faced were, I know I've talked to a lot of my students about this before because I am in the arts, and it took me a long time to get here. And overcoming a lot of challenges with like stereotypes and confidence levels, and just the sake of time and balancing your work and home life. So, I'll start off with stereotypes. My almost my entire family is in sciences, healthcare, especially just doctors, nurses, saving lives. And that was something that I completely appreciate and respect. I just knew growing up it wasn't for me. And I know that my life, I was always guided towards science, and I never felt that passion towards it. So it was something I knew I could do, but I'm choosing not to. So I think just like the stereotype of like there's no success in the arts, and it was something I was told multiple times. I was actually in health studies and dropped out of health studies at Queen's just for a semester to actually change to film. Just because I knew when I was studying I was not enjoying the content and I didn't feel passionate about it, so I wanted something that actually fulfilled me. So I think on that note, my confidence in the arts, it was a struggle at first because I knew I enjoyed it. I knew I had like more so of a passion and a talent for it than I did for science. And my confidence was low, knowing that I didn't have a lot of people that I could look to that actually were successful in the arts. It was something they did as a hobby, but not as a career. And that was what I was repeatedly told as well. So I think my confidence to kind of go against the grain and choose my own path and go into the arts was something that was nerve-wracking at first, but I know it would be ultimately fulfilling if I was able to achieve success in it, which I feel like I hopefully have by now. And then my time, just like to practice and balance things out. I know that it's been a challenge to this day, is I struggle with saying no to things, but my balance for it is that I struggle saying no. I put too much on my plate, especially in the arts, because things do take a lot more time. But I also get this like massive sense of fulfillment and accomplishment when I'm using my passions to help someone else. So I think it's a challenge, but every single project's a challenge in the arts. And I find that once you achieve that and see that like what you've done is actually making someone else smile and making someone else's day, I think that's worth the time that it takes to spend on it.
Such an amazing message. I know there are so many stereotypes, especially going just regarding the field, and you've really like hit them right on. Yeah, like you're changing lives in healthcare and so many fields that society's told us have a bigger impact, which is not true. Every single field contributes in its own way to society. And here we are in a STEM club, and art has a place in STEM, especially within technology. I think it's definitely something that people often overlook, the impact of arts, but it really does have a place and a significant place within STEM and in our society. So great, great message. Thank you for that. Speaking of projects, what was your favorite project that you've worked on? Your resume is super extensive, being a photographer for Justin Trudeau and for Muse magazine. So you've worked on some amazing projects, but what was your favorite?
See, like thank you so much. That was like love this interview already. So I have a few favorites, just because I've been blessed with a sense of like that I can work in, like I studied film, I did photography on the side to get myself through university, and pay like my own way. And then I worked as a multimedia design specialist before I became a teacher. So I've had like different ranges of projects. So I'll just like kind of glance at a few of my favorites. Definitely the day I remember I was working at the tea room at Queen's, and the Young Liberal Party of Canada, like their Queen's representation, came up to ask me at work, like, hey, we know you do the magazine work. Can you photograph Justin Trudeau? And I just remember being like me? And they said, yeah, like he's coming to Kingston. He's in the running to lead the Liberal Party. He might become the next prime minister. It's just something for us to have at the party. And so like the Young Liberals can get some photographs with him, and like you can photograph him and meet him. So that was an awesome day. Especially Justin Trudeau is like just as kind as you think he is in person and gets to know your name, and he's very tall. But I think that was great. I think one of my highlights was I was a second shooter photographer for 2 years. I was driving back and forth from Kingston to Hamilton to shoot weddings on the weekends, and then I got confident enough to just start branching out on my own and start my own photography business, which is in its 12th year now, and it's just something I do as like a side kind of freelance thing. But I've gotten to photograph over 40 weddings now, which has been awesome and get to see everyone just like enjoy their day with them and be able to like capture those memories for them, which is awesome. And my last one with film, I actually, I'm going to go back. I got to plan a conference when I worked as a multimedia and design specialist. And our clients were like Ferrero Rocher and Crayola and Red Solo Cup. And we got to plan this conference. I think it was like a few months before I left for Teachers College that my boss and I kind of were given all this creative freedom and like our biggest budget yet. And they said, plan a 3-day conference for our top 50 clients. And it was awesome. We got to do all like this website design for it. And I got to do all these like made up graphic design, these luggage tags, and got to really play with a theme and a brand that we created. So I think that was really fun to see all those top clients come, and we got to host them and have like a poker night and have a spa day and kind of just spoil them, but get to see all my tangible designs kind of in the room and the atmosphere, and it made kind of like the days very spirited and have this thematic approach to them. So I think that was really cool. But yeah.
Amazing, amazing experiences. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're quite an inspiration to all, you know, and students watching this interview will probably just be in awe as much as I am. So you've had quite a diverse background, and you've traveled abroad. So what was your experience traveling abroad for education? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I grew up knowing I wanted to go away for university. I knew I wanted to like use a university as a way to kind of like have a lot of new experiences. Like I think a lot of kids do now these days. But I knew I wanted to just be like far. And I found out about Queen's Castle program, which they have in England. And it's basically this very rich man. He is Jewish, and Queen's let him into their school during World War II, when a lot of universities weren't allowing Jewish people into their schools. So they allowed him in, and then he became this massive chemist and super rich, and then basically donated a castle to Queen's University. So it's now hosting first-year students there. So I got accepted into this program, and I got to go over to England for my first year when I was only 18, and I've only been to like, I think my furthest I had been was Florida, and jumped across the pond by myself and met 130 students like myself. And we just traveled on the weekends, and we studied Monday to Thursday, and we got to have all these experiences that I know it was like such a massive privilege to have. And what I would tell students now, and like I've been telling my students, is there is so many programs out there that like it's either affiliation universities that have it, or colleges, and they have partners across the world, and you can go over for like a summer and do a credit. I know Blythe has one that you can like do the credit and it transfers as a credit back to your university in some cases. And I think like it's such a great opportunity just to get out and learn European history in the heart of Europe, and actually get to experience things you learn about as you're learning about them. I think it gives you such like insight onto those events, and gives you such a perspective that you might not gain just from sitting in a classroom. So I would highly recommend, if the opportunity and the financial means are available, that you can take advantage of these programs, because I know so few do, and they're just sitting there and waiting. And I think it could change your kind of like outlook on how you can actually integrate education into travel at the same time.
So, you know, your background is so, you know, it's as creative. Your career pathway is as creative as your actual career is, which is So interesting. So you've had some great experiences, lots of diversity, but is there something that you, if there is anything, that you would like to change about your career pathway?
Honestly, like I look back at it and I think sometimes high school, I know at BR, there's like, even at every high school now, it seems like students think it's one path and you need to take it from elementary, more likely high school, and you're taking the straight path right to your career, and then you'll sit in that career and you'll be fine for the rest of your life. In reality, it's not always like that. I know my dad grew up as like knowing he wanted to be a doctor, and for him, as like a baby boomer, it's a big struggle that my career didn't go in the straight path of high school, university, med school, doctor. Like it kind of went zigzaggy and all over the place. And that's completely okay because all those experiences, like I've already told you, have literally led me to where I am today and made me like get this kind of I wanted to have a sense of fulfillment of giving back after I've already done all these experiences, which is why I became a teacher. And I knew that I wouldn't change anything about it, but I would say that like I wish I had stuck to some gut feelings beforehand. And I knew I wasn't going to like health when I chose it. And I did it because it was the practical thing to do, like a practical thing, meaning that's the stereotype. So I know like my gut feeling was saying, I want to go into the arts. And I was kept guided elsewhere. And once I did go into the arts, I felt so much more myself. I just want to say, like, stick to your gut feeling. It's your life. Don't live someone else's. And I know your parents will be always so proud of you at the end of the day. But if you don't want to be a doctor, don't be a doctor. And if you don't want to be an artist, don't be an artist. But like, make sure you're choosing what you want to do because my gut feelings have led me to where I am. And I am so unbelievably appreciative of that. But that's what my advice would be.
You know, it's really, really interesting because I think we often think that when we talk to individuals who are thriving in the careers and ask a question like, what is something that you would change? A lot of people expect them to say like, oh, this was like, a hard situation and I would have wanted to avoid that in my career pathway just to make it like easier. But it seems like that act like the most of the situations and times that people would want to avoid if they would redo everything is when they don't really follow their passion, and we see that in your career pathway too. So such an important message to really just do, like you said, follow that gut feeling because you really won't regret it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that advice. What other advice would you give to students hoping to pursue a career in digital design?
It's a great question. I know I've had these talks with some of even my grade 12s this year, is that pursuing a career in digital design, it's difficult in the sense that I didn't necessarily go to school for photography. Like I went to New York and did my certificate in parts of photography, but I didn't learn it there. I learned it on my own. And even with my multimedia design, I just knew I want to learn how to build a website. I'm just going to teach myself. And so there is that ability, especially with our World Wide Web, to teach yourself. So I think on that note, it's a very competitive field because it's not like medicine where you do need to go to school for it. It is something that like it anyone can teach themselves. So there is a lot of competition if people are able to teach themselves. So I always think back on like Mark Cuban, and he said, work like there's someone working 24 hours a day to take it all away from you. And that's something that sat in my head is that someone is literally could be waiting for you to fail and waiting for your spot. So if you make a name for yourself, you make that reputation for yourself, and you have people turning to you, don't diminish it just by kind of throwing it away. I know I put too much on my plate sometimes, but when I love what I'm doing, it doesn't feel like work. and teaching doesn't feel like work, arts doesn't feel like work, but I know that there's someone like that could be waiting right there, waiting for my position. So I try to work my hardest to keep learning, to keep doing, and like manage my time so I actually can have that balance between work and home life. But I think that's something that really resonated with me, especially in a competitive field like.
Yeah, such amazing advice. Thank you for that. And it really does also, your response definitely tackles those stereotypes that are really present in the arts field as maybe like an easier type of field, which is so not true. Not true at all. It's definitely one of the most competitive fields because, like you said, it's not the step-by-step type thing. You have to really work hard for it to really gain a place there. So definitely great advice telling our students to, if you have that dream, if you have that passion, work and give, 100% of who you are towards, getting that place and doing what you love as a career. So thank you so much for that advice. So you talked about not really having as much support growing up for, being an artist. So where did your inspiration come from? Who or what inspired you to be Miss Michaels, the one we know?
So I think it came from like, it kind of is a great conclusion to everything because I think ironically I've said my dad's in health and my sisters are both in health. But my dad was a single father for a majority of my childhood, and we had a pretty rough home life, and he kind of taught me like he worked to make sure his past was not going to be his future. And I saw that drive in him, and that kind of instilled in me that I wanted to make sure that I built my own future and I didn't let my past dictate it. And I know I've talked to students about it when they're going through personal times at home, and just making sure like you like put that fuel that you have, that kind of like emotion, and drive it into something that will actually push your life forward instead of holding you back. So I think I've learned a lot from him in that way. And then even the other side of it with the arts. So he gave me that drive, and the arts came from my teachers, and which is why I went into teaching, is they were repeatedly kind of instilling in me like, you are an artist. And they were looking towards me for project, ironically it still goes on today, but they were looking at me for like school projects. And I actually loved getting pulled out of class and like drawing something for the talent show, to hang up on the wall so the school could see my work, because I loved doing that kind of stuff, and still to this day I love doing it. So they always looked out for me, especially when things were rough at home. They would take me outside of class and ask me what's up, and am I okay? Do I need a breather? Do I need a walk? And I kind of still do that to my students when we were in school. I did that. I try to look out for them as much as my teachers looked out for me. And they made me believe in myself more. And they made me believe like, this is who I am. And just because I have these kind of notions set on me that I should go into healthcare and I should be doing science because it's more practical, and like I've said it all in this interview, my teachers were the ones that were kind of telling me like, we can see you more in arts, and we can see this kind of talent in you, and we're not sure if you've explored this kind of opportunity. And they kind of set it in my mind that maybe this was an opportunity that I could pursue in the future. And so it's why I became a teacher, because when I look back at all those teachers that helped me, I know that I've had students that I've taken out that I'm like, you actually have a passion in this. You don't like, you can do it on the side if you want to continue science, and you can even look at doing this as an opportunity for your career in the future. And it is successful. You can make just as much, even more, and work from home, have a good balance. And I know that that was something they helped me realize. So I think those two side by side really helped make me who I am today.
Yeah, it's such an awesome story. Really inspiring. And I'm so glad that you really are taking those people who made an impact in your life and, you know, using that to make an impact in the lives of others. I'm sure your students are very lucky to have you as a teacher and to have your support. Any last words before we conclude our interview?
I don't think so, but I am like super honored that you wanted to interview me. I think it's awesome.
No, we're honored to have you. Thank you so much for your time. This was Bishop Redding STEM's interview with Katie Michaels. Bye, everyone.
Bye.